Skinny fat is a disease, one that I used to suffer from. I know how painful it is to live in a body you hate, to look in the mirror with nothing but disgust. And I also know just how confusing it is to break out. Do I cut? Do I bulk? If I cut, I'll just be skinny. If I bulk, I'll just get even fatter. It honestly feels like purgatory, which is why I'm making this video. I want to help you cure your skinny fat disease, so without further ado, let's jump into my computer and I'll walk you through it.
So why do I call skinny fat a disease? Well, it is literally the embodiment of mediocrity. What? You can't really go all in with anything. Not even gluttony. Bro, do better, come on. At least when you're fully obese, you can become an absolute behemoth pretty quickly, because every single fatty that I knew from school and from my past life, they became very strong very quickly and they got jacked. They turned into an absolute monster pretty rapidly. But here's the thing. Here's your competitive advantage. Real fatties might never taste the beauty of getting truly diced. You know, that dick skin shredded look that makes eyes pop. Because the simple truth is, you can only gain fat cells. You can never lose them. Once they're on your body, they're there to stay. You can shrink the size of them, and that's how these fatties, they can make such a crazy transformation, but you'll never shrink the number of fat cells, which is why they always have that like loose skin hanging off them, because of their years of gluttony and just feeding their addiction. For example, look at this transformation right here. It's pretty incredible, right? He gets absolutely jacked, and you can tell he's got low body fat. You can see his abs, got veins in his biceps, but I don't think this guy will ever experience true shreds because of the number of fat cells that are still in his body and all of this unsightly loose skin. As hard as he's worked, as good of a transformation he's had, he's never really going to be properly shredded. However, he's always going to be jacked. He's always going to be massive. So, depends which battle you want to fight. Anyway, let me talk to you about the skinny fat spectrum, because it's not one size fits all, unfortunately. You see, there are different levels of skinny fat. At the start here, we have the classic skinny fat, probably never lifted a weight in his life, or if he's been to the gym, he's trained with zero intensity and zero consistency. Whereas on the right, we have skinny fat, who still trains reasonably hard, 6 days a week, still tries his best to eat clean, but he's let himself go because he's just become a comfort-seeking cuck. And what's the difference between this guy to this guy, to this guy, to this guy, to this guy? It's the amount of muscle they have. You see, at all these different stages, there are slightly different things you have to do, but some principles remain constant. Let me talk to you about them. First things first, forget about calories for now, right? Stop, sugar bulk, cut, maintain, cut all that noise and prioritize the food quality before you even consider that question. Because another big reason that you're skinny fat is not just because of your bad habits you've been accumulating. It's because those bad habits have combined into the hormonal profile of a garden slug. Estrogen is flowing through your veins, testosterone nowhere to be found, prolactin is at an all-time high, you probably got cortisol pumping because you just don't know how to manage your stress properly because you have a little victim mindset. Hey, it's okay. We've all been there. There is a solution. Here's the thing. When you search up junk food versus nutritious food on the internet, you're going to get a lot of misinformation. For example, look at this graphic. This is what will typically go through your mind when you think of junk food versus healthy food. Junk is obvious, right? Deep fried processed garbage, sugary bullshit. And healthy food is green, right? It's your veggies. Wrong. This is such a common misconception that I truly want to debunk once and for all, although I'm probably going to have to keep on going again and again and again because nutrition is an infinite rabbit hole that you can never get to the bottom of. But here's the thing. When you think of eating healthy and going on a diet and changing your ways, your immediate instinct is to eat like a pro bodybuilder because it's the most commonly known diet that works. You know, you have your chicken, your rice, and your broccoli. Perfect, right? Nutritious, right? And if you don't get enough protein in that, you can supplement with some whey. Amazing idea, right? Again, incorrect, wrong. These bodybuilders can get away with this diet because they're injecting their hormonal profile. But in reality, this food is very void of nutrients. There is a lot of protein in chicken, but very few micronutrients. The micronutrients in rice are basically non-existent. It's just carbs. It's a good source of carbs to give you fuel for your workouts. Yes, it will give you brain fog, no doubt about it. But again, not really any micronutrients. However, you could be thinking to yourself, well, I don't need to get my micronutrients from carbs. I'll just get it from my vegetables. Well, would you believe it if I told you that most of the nutrients from broccoli don't even get absorbed by your body? You would have to eat an insane amount of it just to meet your daily requirement. And the recommended daily requirement is always lower than it has to be. So, yeah, this is just a terrible idea to try and eat like a bodybuilder. Do you know how many people I've spoken to that are fatties, right, or skinny fatties? They've been devolving for years, and yet they immediately get onto this bodybuilder diet, and they think, I haven't ever been disciplined in my life, but I can stick to this way of eating, no problem. Freaking buffoonery. And I know because I've also been there. You know, I'm speaking with such intense anger, not really anger, but derision because I've been there. Like I said before, it's not even that healthy, but even worse, it tastes like cardboard. It's not enjoyable to eat this way, right? You will give up after a week and go right back to the way you were eating before. Ask me how I know, right? So, how should you eat? What actual foods should you include in your diet? I'm going to get to that, but just breathe. Be patient, because first, I need to talk to you about something far more important. The concept of extreme dieting without actually fixing the root cause. You see, this right here was one of my transformations. I went from skinny fat to skinny fat. How did that happen? Well, from this to this, I went carnivore. I lost a lot of weight very quickly and was honestly quite blown away by the rapid progress. I'll be honest with you, a lot of it was water, some of it was fat, some of it was muscle as well, because carnivore just makes you look kind of shit, I'll be honest with you. But I said to myself, I want to try carnivore for a month to see how I respond, because I'd heard a lot of hype about it on the internet. And so I did. And so it worked. It got me a pretty good transformation. But I didn't fix the root cause. I went sort of all in. I became a carnival cultist because I felt such mental clarity and sharpness of thought while I was on it. I was like, yeah, this is the way, this is the way, this is the only way to eat. Even though I would constantly just be getting cravings, I was like, my body was crying out for carbs. So I ended up caving in one day. Once the month was over, it was like I just went right back to my old way of eating and nothing had really changed. In the first few months afterwards, this photo was taken, and as you can see, I filled out quite a bit. The carbs, they did me some good because they restored the glycogen in my muscles. They made me look bigger. But because I didn't fix the root cause of the problem, I let myself go again. I truly devolved into a sloppy mess. So what is this root cause that we need to fix? It's your chaotic monkey brain. Everything in life starts and ends with your mindset, and your physique is the perfect visual representation of that mindset. You've heard it all before though, right? But why do you know this, but you can't act upon it? Because it's so confusing. Okay, I know how to, I know that mindset is so important, but how do I actually change my mindset? Bro, I'll be honest with you, it's a long journey of stacking wins, keeping promises to yourself, and rewiring your brain not to seek comfort and pleasure, but to enjoy pain and suffering, and to know that on the other side of it, you're going to feel like an absolute G, like a savage. But it all starts with just one habit, and then you have to compound it with other added wins in your day. The first thing I did to help start to rewire my mindset, make it more chiseled, make it stronger, was waking up at 5 a.m. every single day, no matter how I felt. I started this process on the 1st of September last year, and since then, it's sort of just been stacking. I've been, making myself more present, more focused, and I've cut so much of the noise out, which is the biggest component that helped me fix my chaotic monkey brain. But it all begins with the decision. You have to want to change, because truly, I mean this from the bottom of my heart, you don't have what it takes. This current version of you that exists, that operates in the world, it doesn't have what it takes to cure skinny fat. Otherwise, you would have already done so. Good news is, you can mutate into that guy who's capable of achieving it. Yeah, when you have this chaotic monkey brain, you make really impulsive decisions. You are a slave to your emotions, and it very often manifests with eating. You feel a certain type of way and you seek comfort from food, from that sweet sugary release, that temporary feeling of pleasure that goes away after the first few bites. Then you end up feeling nothing but regret. But you have this all or nothing mentality, right? You think to yourself, I've already fucked up. I might as well go all the way, right? I've already bought this junk food. I might as well just finish it instead of throwing it away, right? And obviously, your monkey brain doesn't like to stick to the same process. It always seeks novelty, right? So it just makes random schizophrenic changes to your routine, to your training, to your diet, without any real basis of information, just again because of your impulsive decision-making process. Okay, you need to get into your skull and keep drilling it in on a daily basis that hard decisions equate to a better life. Every single time you're at a crossroads and you're like, this feels more difficult, but this feels like it will be easier, bro, go all in on difficult and you won't regret it. So, how do you consistently make those choices when your whole life has programmed you to take it easy and go for the path of least resistance? Because that's what this modern world loves us to do. And to be honest with you, that's how we've evolved. It is in our survival DNA to seek the path of least resistance. But you have to go against that over and over and over again if you want to achieve a better life, a better mindset, and to cure that skinny fat disease. You need a why that makes you cry. You need to find a North Star vision that fills you with such deep emotion that is something you can work towards, either for the rest of your life or for the next foreseeable future, for the next year, 3 years, 10 years, doesn't matter. And you have to make every single choice from the lens of, how does this serve my North Star goal? Does it move me closer to it, or does it take away from it? Now, this North Star goal, I can't even begin to tell you that in a video. In my coaching program, we dive deep. I ask you a series of questions. We come to an answer, a minimum viable vision, I like to call it. But I can't really tell you much here right now. It just has to be something so powerful that you're emotionally attached to the outcome. I'll give you some examples, right? If you're a father, you had a kid who, was unexpected. You were an irresponsible idiot and you got a girl pregnant way too young. Now you're stuck with this responsibility for the rest of your life. You want to be the best man you possibly can. You need to level up ASAP. Make your kid the North Star goal. Make every decision from the perspective of, I need to be a strong role model, an inspirational leader for my family. Likewise, if you're trying to do what I do, if you want to build a personal brand that impacts the world, a coaching business that transforms lives, you have to always make the decision of, does this choice get me closer to becoming that guy or take me away from it? Those are the two examples that come to mind, but honestly, bro, like I say already, it's a decision you're going to have to make for yourself, unless you want to work with me, but hey, it's not the point. Okay, so let's actually get into the nitty-gritty tactics of how to solve this skinny fat disease. I caption this start with a W because your training is going to be the factor that gets you out. You can have the perfectly optimized diet, but if you don't use that diet in order to feed stimulus and facilitate recovery from your training, then you might get in better shape. You'll sort of look kind of all right, sort of lean, sort of skinny-ish, but you'll still look a bit skinny fat. I'll be honest with you. You need to train hard with a good program that gets you to your goals. Good news for you is I've made you one that you can have entirely for free. No commitments, not even putting your fucking email into a list for me to try and spam you with marketing. No. Literally, just click on the link. It might be in the comments or the description or both. I haven't yet decided, but have a look. I made a video about what novice program you should do. I made it for you and I made it super easy to get started. You can literally click the link. It opens an app in your phone and you can just follow the program. Run it. The world's your oyster. You can start making schizophrenic, monkey-minded changes to it at your leisure if that's what you want, but it will give you a good template to follow. If you're a novice, if you still haven't made those first newbie gains and, actually got some real results at the gym, if you already have been there, like I already showed you this skinny fat spectrum, and you are already got a decent amount of muscle, this program probably isn't for you, and you're going to have to go with something a bit more specialized. But anyway, now let's talk about the nourishment, how you feed your body. That is the mentality I want you to approach it with. You have to rewire your relationship with food, and it doesn't happen overnight. You can't just snap after years of gluttony and change how you view the food. But you want to approach it as fuel for your goals, which means you have to have goals in the first place, right? Maybe it's not even just building a physique. Maybe you want to operate at crystal clear 4K Ultra HD all the time because you have a goal. Maybe you want to build a business that serves the world. Maybe you just want to maximize your career if you don't want to do things on your own. That's also as well okay, but this again comes back to the North Star vision. Once you have your North Star, then you can make every decision from the lens of it, including how do I fuel my body for my goals? And here is how you do so. You focus your protein sources with high quality animal based food. That's right, we don't do vegan shit out here. We don't ruin our guts with all these beans and lentils, legumes, fucking protein shakes, soy milk. No. We consume micronutrient dense animal food sources. Beef, salmon, eggs, oysters, shellfish, organs, especially nutrient dense. We try to stay away from chicken. We might use it as a tool because it's low in calories, high in protein, but we don't make it our main protein source. During my bodybuilding prep, chicken was my main protein source. I supplemented with liver to fill in the micronutrients, but now I'm back to beef and I couldn't be happier. Red meat should be your basis. Red meat and eggs. Again, this diet is nothing new. I'm not coming up with any gimmicks, right? It's basically the animal-based diet that you might have seen a million times before, but with a few little quirks and tweaks. Then obviously for fat, we don't make this our main fuel source, right? We have a moderate fat intake. We don't go high like we are doing keto or carnivore. We go moderate. A good amount of fat to facilitate our hormone production, but not enough fat to lose that glycogen fullness that will come from having a good carbs to fats ratio and just making our muscles look fucking disgustingly sexy. But again, for fats, we use either animal sources like dairy, high quality dairy, Parmesan cheese. It's probably one of the best. Goat's cheese, stuff like that. Tallow, ghee, butter, completely animal-based fats, raw milk. It's either going to be from animals or from fruits, not vegetables, right? We don't use fats from vegetables, fucking seeds. They're the worst of the worst. So, avocado, freaking have at it. Spam avocado, spam coconut oil. Bro, you have my blessing. Just stay away from sunflower oil, vegetable oils, canola oils, all of this absolute trash. And this wasn't in the pyramid when I searched up animal-based diet, but another amazing fat source you can have is 100% dark chocolate. It's also got a little bit of carbs in it, but it's mainly fat. Very high in calories, high in energy. It blocks myostatin, not a crazy amount, not like some fucking roids will do, but enough to definitely have an increase in your gains. It increases nitrogen content in your blood, thus leading to crazier pumps, and it's good for cognitive function because it's a vasodilator, meaning more blood flow to your brain. And carbs. Let's talk carbs, The evil, the greatest, controversial macronutrient in the world. Carbs are amazing, but carbs need to be earned. You can't just live some sedentary lifestyle when you're sat on your ass all day and consume carbs. You don't need them. Carbs are fuel for training. Get that through your head. That is my philosophy. That's what carbs do best. They don't make you sharper mentally. They don't really do anything other than just make you an absolute savage, help you attack weights with intensity. So, what carbs do we use? Like I mentioned already, white rice, very good choice. It's energy dense. You can eat a whole bunch of it if you're struggling to gain weight. I mean, that's obviously not your struggle right now. Your struggle is to cure skinny fat. But yeah, rice is an acceptable source for you, I'd say. Be careful because you're gonna overeat if you don't have the right amount. I'd say far superior to rice is potatoes. White potatoes, sweet potatoes, doesn't really matter. They're very voluminous, they're very filling, and they can fuel some pretty incredible training sessions if you eat them like over 2 hours before you train. Meaning I don't typically use them because I prefer my carbs to be fast digesting, which is why the majority of your carbs should come from fruits and honey. That's right, fast digesting, delicious fuel that will give you crazy pumps, crazy workouts, and just improve your quality of life because they're so full of micronutrients. And let's be honest, absolutely delicious. So, when you adopt this model of dieting and you change your relationship with food we use this to fuel our goals and we thoroughly enjoy every single bite because it's honestly, this way of eating can be so much more delicious than all this takeout shit if you reprogram your mind. But for now, we're going to take this food and we're going to eat in a 300 to 500 calorie deficit because you're in a position right now where you're skinny fat, but you're untrained. That's what I'm going to be going off because obviously I talked to you about the skinny fat spectrum, not one size fits all, but let's say you still haven't got your newbie gains, right? You still haven't achieved some decent results at the gym. You can lose fat while gaining muscle, the best that has ever come in your life. You can always lose fat while gaining muscle, but it's going to become so much more difficult the more muscle you have. The best you can do at that stage, honestly, most of the time, is to lose fat while maintaining your muscle, but even that is difficult once you start losing enough fat to start getting properly diced. But anyway, I'm rambling. Our goal, like I said already, is to start with a win, meaning we can peel back your body fat, get you feeling fresher, more energized, more confident in yourself, while gaining some muscle. It's not going to be the most amount of muscle we can possibly gain, but here's the thing. We're in this for the long game, aren't we? I don't want to talk to guys who are just short-term focused, like, I want results in 1 month, and if I don't get them, then I'll give up. No, pussy, you're not my boy. You've spent years devolving, right? You have, got this skinny fat disease that isn't going to be cured overnight. Meaning, first things first, we cut the fat, we get you a short-term win because that puts us in an amazing position to do a quality bulk afterwards where You will gain some fat inevitably, but for the most part, you can have a lean bulk and just mutate into an absolute monster. Obviously, it's going to be slower. We're going to be more moderate. You have to be more careful about not overspilling. But if you just cut the fat first, you get your body looking sharp while still gaining some muscle because, like I said already, you'll be training hard with a good program. Man, you're off to the races. You'll be in an amazing position to start to build. But this took me way too long. However, it doesn't have to take you the same amount of time. You can literally speed run the process and save yourself years, just like I did when I hired my first coach. It was an amazing decision, the best investment I've ever made in my life. I've even joined like business mentorship programs that weren't as good of an investment as a proper high quality fitness coach was, because he helped me fix my monkey mind and just stick with the process. I obviously did a photo shoot, got ripped beyond belief, and then stepped on stage onto a bodybuilding show. Now I live in Thailand, just living an absolutely incredible reality, even though I still haven't achieved my goals and whatever. I just enjoying the daily process. But yeah, this was only possible through investing in myself, getting a coach I deeply admired and respected. And if you feel the same way about me, if you respect me enough, if you trust me enough, more importantly, I'd love to work with you. But I respect you too much to try and get you on a sales call, because I think it's a waste of time. If you don't want it, I don't want to be there to try and manipulate you and convince you. I probably will have to do some sales calls, with other guys, but you're my YouTube brother. We have a more deep connection, don't we? So if you truly do want to transform your life and you're sick, wasting time, just flip-flopping around, just messing about, and you want to go all in, just find me on Instagram. The link will be down below. And then DM me the word mutate. I'll send you my offer. If that sounds interesting to you, then we'll begin ASAP. If not, if you're not ready to commit to that level, then there'll be another link you can click. It's again, very low friction, no pressure. Do what you want. I couldn't really care less, but I would love to help you transform your life on a more intimate level. So, with that being said, brother, thank you so much if you've watched this far. Hope you have an amazing day. I'll see you when I see you.